In this video, we are going over the Traffic Light Playbook, the playbook which our partners use to manage their clients at scale. Right now, there's over 300 different agencies that are using our systems. We helped Narrow Health 4x's capacity. We helped one guy manage 150 marketing clients with one CSM, and we're still working with agencies doing all the way up to 300K a month on a one-on-one basis. The reason I'm saying all of this is not to brag, it's just to tell you that this stuff actually works. And my goal for this video is that you can steal this exact same playbook that's again is used inside these seven-figure agencies to maximize your client results and stop churn. So if that's something you care about, then keep watching because we're not holding anything back in this. So most agencies treat all the clients the same, and that is the problem. And that's why clients actually end up leaving. So when it comes to agencies, every client is always in one of these three groups. We have green clients, who are clients that are doing well. We have yellow clients, which are clients where their performance is slightly dipping. And then we have red clients where, something's going very, very bad that needs to be fixed as soon as possible. Each of these three individual groups need a different strategy. And the mistake that agencies make is just treating all of these guys as the same people. And again, this is where the traffic light system comes into play, because it allows your CSMs to be able to identify which individual client needs a priority and then do different things depending on what specific group they are in. So we'll start off with green. Green clients are clients where there's some sort of metrics that are healthy and the client is actually happy. Now, obviously, if you have some sort of like lead generation results-based agency, it'll be very, very easy to see if they're getting results or not by looking at, like, for example, the number of leads they have. But again, like when you look at these metrics, look at a couple of different cumulative metrics and put together some sort of health score so you can actually understand how the clients are actually performing. But let's say in general right now, the client is healthy and the client is actually happy. This is a very, very big win to actually be in. But again, we do not want to coast and just like ignore these clients, because there's still so much leverage we can take from these clients into other clients that are performing as well, but also just doing a bit more with these green clients, which are clients that are performing well. So within here, this is not a time to coast, it's a time to actually maximize. So what can you actually do here? We're going to talk about 6 different things you can do. First thing first, you can have them up. Secondly, you can collect testimonials. Third, you can cross-pollinate wins, which is massive. Not enough people talk about this, and it's really how we see a lot of agencies, especially at a higher level, be able to kind of spread the client results, especially if you're in a specific niche, right? Because something that works for client A might most likely work for client C. So if someone's doing very, very well, you can cross-pollinate those wins to the rest of your portfolio, if that makes sense. But we're going to talk about that a bit more in a second. You can obviously increase ad spend. You can upsell, which is kind of hidden behind me, but you guys can see it. And you can reward. So let's dive into these individually. First things first, hype them up. They've just got a massive win. You're meant to be like the coach, right? To some extent. Obviously, it depends on your model and how you kind of structure different things, right? But let's just say you are working with a client. They get the specific result that he actually came in for. Don't just ignore them. Hype them up. Send them some sort of congratulations. Celebrate their wins. Give a shout out. Make it a big deal, guys, because these are the moments that really, really matter. These are the moments that the clients will remember you for. If they just, for example, get like a 20x for us and you don't make it a big deal, it's like, what's the even point of, even though obviously they will get some sort of reward from that, from the money they actually make, they want to tie that result to you. So if you create some sort of core memory where you're actually celebrating the wins, and we've seen some guys go as far as even get some sort of physical presence to actually celebrate that win. There's obviously a lot of different things you can do here, guys. But you basically just want to make yourself part of that core memory so that when things go bad later, potentially, or when results aren't as good as they are right now, they're able to remember that massive win that they got and be able to pass that on to the different things. So please, guys, celebrate their wins. Make it a big deal. Flag the numbers. You give them a shout out in the community, whatever else it may be. But this is super important because, again, if they get a win, you want to remember that win and they want them to associate that win to you. And having that celebration is kind of just a way to do it, right? For example, have a look at different companies like ClickFunnels. What do they do when clients reach the $1 million milestone or $10 million or even $100 million? They give them this massive plaque, which is a great reward, right? Same thing with school. What do they do for the people that win their challenge that they run on a quarterly basis? They give them these nice, beautiful trophies, right? Celebrate those wins with the clients. You can, again, go as far as even getting some sort of like reward and sort of number or some sort of physical product that they can literally like hold on to remember you and associate that win to you. But just the general idea is that you want to celebrate the wins that the clients actually have for these green clients, right? The second thing you want to do, let me just go back to this one, is collect testimonials. This is the best opportunity to collect testimonials. A lot of people, when they come to collect testimonials, and I actually have a whole 30-minute video going over this, but they'll be like, okay, cool. The people are leaving. After the clients leave, be like, hi, how was your review with us? And that's the point where they collect testimonials. And that makes no sense, guys. You need to collect testimonials at the time that the client is the happiest. And guess what? If they are green clients, that means they're very, very happy and they're getting amazing results. So this is your chance to get some testimonials from them, right? And remember, this is your window, obviously, to get case studies, video reviews, written reviews, and capture it while the moment is still there. This is important, guys, because green clients don't stay green forever. You don't want to wait. And right now, you're basically at the peak of how they actually get results, right? This is like the best time that we're actually going to be with you guys. They're going to be probably the most cooperative. They're going to be the most enthusiastic, all that stuff. So this is the time that you actually want to get that result. And again, like if you go back to my previous slide, this is not just a individual Trustpilot review or a written review. Remember, you can get a lot of different types of testimonials from one individual client. You can get short form reviews where they record a video for themselves. You can get like a case study review where you actually interview them. You can get some sort of written review on Google. You can get a written review on Trustpilot. You can get just a written Slack message, whatever else it may be. You can get a voice note. There's so many different types of reviews you can actually get. So every single time you have these green clients, don't just leave them there. Do something with that and get some sort of reviews. Now we're going to talk about cross-pollinating, guys. And again, this is something that I literally have not seen a single person talk about on YouTube. And I think it's one of the strategies that, at least for a lot of our partners, have allowed them to continue getting really, really good results for their clients, especially as they continue growing. Because basically what we're doing here is we're passing different wins from one client to different clients, right? So in order to actually do this, we have to do a couple of different things. The first thing we want to do is actually identify the winning properties. So if, for example, someone got a 40x ROAS, we need to find out, okay, cool, what are the winning properties from this specific account or ad account that has not been passed on to the other people, right? For example, was it the angle? Was it a creative? Was it a specific offer? Wherever else it may be. Then you want to basically compare that across different winning clients. So hopefully, if you're managing a couple of different clients, you'll be able to have a lot of different data about these different winning properties, right? So for example, maybe you have client A who's getting amazing results and he has an ad angle which worked really well. And then you see that same ad angle being used for client C who also has amazing results. So what does that mean? It most likely means, obviously you have to look at the data, but the ad angle that both of them use might be one of the reasons why they are actually succeeding. Basically what we're doing here is we want to compare the winning clients across a couple of different clients to see what's actually going on here. Once we have that, again, we want to basically find and match the patterns. So again, we've identified the winning properties for one of our winning clients. We've then compared them across the different clients to actually identify which one. And now we basically want to match the patterns and be able to be like, okay, cool. This specific angle or this specific ad creative or this specific hook is what caused us to get some sort of reward and actually get them the results, right? And then this is the most important part, test. Once you've actually able to identify and match that specific pattern, you're not 100% sure, it's just a guess. You want to test that across some of the different clients and see if that same kind of rewards and that same sort of gratification or monetary gain, whatever else it may be, is passed across your different client accounts. And the whole concept of cross-pollinating, guys, is that every single win basically feeds into the next one. So if one client is getting good results, you're able to basically pass those good results onto different people, right? And then the whole idea of this, again, is that you're building some sort of intelligent loop across your whole agency. And this works so good if you're in a specific niche. Because if, for example, all of your guys that you're working with are some sort of chiropractors, right? And you're able to basically crack the chiropractor marketing. And obviously this marketing is an evolving game, right? But even for a month, if you can get everyone good results, then you can go back to keeping everyone green, maybe upsell them, which we'll talk about in a second. But the whole idea of this is that once someone has good results, you're able to pass that on to everyone else, even people that may not be having as good results, which we'll talk about in a second. And you can basically pass that and get everyone better results, which is a massive win, right? So step 4 for green clients, and again, these are clients that are doing well, is basically just increasing ad spend. I thought it would be good to include this here because not enough people really talk about this. If someone's doing well, you should encourage them to continue growing. And this works especially well if you're some sort of revenue share model because you're basically sort of a business partner, right? If something is working, you actually want to scale it. So for example, if they're spending $30 a day, and they get an amazing cost results, don't be like, hey, cool, let's just stay here and let's just go. Let's be like, hey, you get even more results if you spend more money on it. So have a conversation about increasing budget with a client. And obviously it is a choice on their end, how much they want to spend, so on and so forth. But again, I encourage them because if they're getting good results, you really want to ride that wave and continue scaling, get them even better results if they increase the ad spend. Step 5 of this is upselling, right? So you need to give your clients what they actually need. And obviously the timing of this will depend on your backend offer, how everything's structured. You need to obviously be able to read and trust the data. But if someone is getting good results, this will be a perfect opportunity to upsell them into some sort of next echelon that you have, right? So for example, let's say you have a marketing agency and one of your upsells is some sort of sales program or sales coaching, or maybe, for example, hiring an appointment set or whatever else it may be. Would you rather upsell that when they're not getting good results and they're not able to get any leads, right? Because they don't need an appointment setter. Or would you be more likely to close that upsell when they're already getting leads, they're getting some really, really good results, and now it's just about the case of basically increasing and improving that conversion rate? This is the same exact principle applying here. We basically want to be able to continue riding that wave. So if someone is getting good results and if someone actually needs the upsell service that we have, the best time to do it is when they were actually green. And again, this depends on what your back-end offer actually is, which is why when I'm kind of working offers with different partners, I always love to tie it into specifically them achieving a specific output. So for example, if someone's struggling with leads and you now are able to give them leads, the next problem they're going to face is sales because they actually need to convert those leads. If someone now is master sales, the next step of that is going on to fulfillment and improving their fulfillment. And it kind of goes on and on. There's a lot of different optimizations that you can make throughout the entire funnel. And you can have different upsells at different points there. But the whole idea that I want to emphasize here is that you want to give your clients what they actually need, right? And when they're actually getting good results, it'll be the best time to actually do that, guys, right? And remember, guys, like your clients can be worth a lot to you. There's obviously a couple of different ways to increase your LTV. The main one that we talk about in this channel is kind of decreasing the churn rate so they stay longer and pay you over a longer term basis. But another great way to increase LTV is to have a back-end offer. If you look at someone like Alex Amosi, for example, his gym launch business, which was somewhat sort of like coaching, like done for you services, right? The first 16 weeks was like the initial program they sold for 16K. But on the back end of that, they had another 32K back-end offer, which was like 3 years or something like that. Think about that. If they didn't have any sort of back-end offer, they would have just had that 16K. They wouldn't have had the other 32K that would have came from the back-end upsell, right? Keep that in mind. If you don't already have an upsell, it's such a powerful thing to do. Just make it something that your clients will actually need as they kind of progress through different things for your company, right? And green is the perfect time to do that. And then step 6 is a reward. You can do different things here: priority access, bonus deliverables, genuine recognitions in the community, wherever else it may be. The whole point is that we want to give them sort of interaction to basically make them feel valued beyond the invoice. Again, this kind of goes back to our hyping them up when they're getting a great win. Some sort of reward would be very, very good to actually show them over here. So over here, again, we kind of went over the green section, and the whole idea of the green is basically maximize, get as much as we can from this. So we want to hype them up, we want to collect testimonials, we want to cross-pollinate wins, which is going to be the biggest thing that you can actually do here is just cross-pollinate, because it's going to be able to pass the different results to different clients. You want to scale, you can upsell them, and then you actually kind of want to reward them if you would like. The next group of clients we talk about now is our yellow clients. And these aren't necessarily the worst clients in terms of results, but they're clients where the results are not exactly where they should be, right? So again, they're not terrible, right? But it's not necessarily where they're expected. This is sort of some sort of middle ground. And what I really want to emphasize here is that this is a very, very critical stage, because a small shift here will bring them back on track. But if we don't do anything and if we don't catch it early, then they are going to go ahead and go down to the red place, which is obviously we don't want to be, because the red is like the worst of the worst. We do not want to be there whatsoever. So in order to actually fix this, we're going to be a couple of different things to actually give them better results. So first, we're going to communicate with the client. Secondly, we're going to identify the constraint. Thirdly, we're going to communicate the plan, implement the fix, communicate again, and then monitor, right? And let's go into each individual things. The first thing we want to do with any single one of these clients is communicate, guys. This is the most important things. You do not want to wait for them to come to you. And generally, I really mean this. This is probably one of the biggest perspective changes that I think we install into different partners that come to us. And that's that you do not want to be reactive. By any means necessary, you don't want the client to come to you to complain. You need to be the one that's going to the client and being the authority. Because again, I remember, if for example, you have a marketing agency, these guys are paying you to take care of their marketing. If now they come to you to complain about something, you are no longer the expert, guys, because they are meant to have that trust in you. Again, imagine you go to and pay someone like a plumber, right, to do your toilet. And then you notice that one of the things that they did isn't working so well, or while they're on the job, right? So for example, they're using a different type of screw. And you point out, hey, by the way, should you really be using that screw? How much trust are you going to have in that plumber? It's the exact same thing when it comes to online services like agencies. You do not want the client to complain to you. And what we want to do here to actually avoid that is just communicate, reach out to them, acknowledge the numbers, say that, hey, results aren't so good right now, but this is what we need to actually work on it. Let them know that you're on it and that you're actively looking for it. This alone will separate you from 90% of the agencies out there, guys. It's literally such a small shift that makes such a massive difference through everyone else. The second thing you want to do is now identify the constraint. So at this point, we've communicated with them that, hey, there's something going on here, we're looking into it. You basically need to find out what's actually causing this issue. Now, the way I like to think about it is there's always one thing that's going wrong in the agency, at least in most cases for clients, or there's always one constraint that any business can kind of focus on. So for example, for me, my constraint right now is acquisition, which is why I'm spending my time putting together ads, putting together different videos, whatever else it may be. My constraint right now is in fulfillment, so I shouldn't be focusing on fulfillment. And it's the exact same thing when it comes to client results. Now, obviously, I'm not going to tell you how to give your clients results. You hopefully know how to do that yourself. But the whole thing I'm trying to identify here is that we want to identify that constraint. We want to find out what's actually going on. Is it on the client side? Is it on your side? And be honest about this, right? If it's something that, for example, is on the client side where they actually can't convert different people together, make that out. But don't always go to blaming the client. That should be the last resort, if that makes sense. Now, that being said, there are some cases where it will be a client's fault, right? In this case, you want to hold them accountable. What does it actually look like? This can be, for example, if they have a slow lead follow-up. If they aren't actually closing these leads that you're getting them. If, for example, they're not answering the calls that these are actually doing them. And the way you want to do this in the tools are actually hold them accountable at least, because it is sometimes a bit of a touchy subject. You just want to show them the actual data, guys. Show them that, hey, you know, these are how many leads we've brought to you. This is how much money you do if you actually brought in at the correct numbers. Just set the correct expectation, guys. I think you just have to make it clear what happens. At the end of the day, like, if these clients are paying you for something, you want to make it valuable to them. So if you actually show them that data and show them those numbers, they are much more likely to be able to actually do that. And don't be scared to hold them accountable, guys. I mean, at the end of the day, it's your job. Now, if it's on your end, you want to make sure that you actually own it and fix it. What does that actually mean? For example, this is different things like creative fatigue, maybe audience saturation, whatever else, maybe campaign structure, whatever it is, doesn't matter. But if it's on your end, you want to actually come in, obviously identify constraint and actually fix it. So now that you've basically identified what's actually going on with this client, we want to move on to step 3, which is communicating. As you can see, throughout every single one of these steps, between them, we are adding a level of communication because, again, this whole time we're trying to keep the client in the loop as much as possible, right? So at this point, we first communicate to the client that there's been a problem. We secondly identify the problem. Now we're actually communicating our plan. You can say different things like, hey, this is what we found. This is what we're doing to actually fix it. And here's a timeline on how long it will take for us to be able to see some results. It's literally that simple, but this will make such a big difference in terms of your communication and obviously also the experience that your clients are actually having because they're going to trust you as the authority. Step 4 is actually implementing a fix. Pretty straightforward. I'm not going to be talking about this because I'm not in your fulfillment process, at least right now. If you want me to be, then check the link below and actually book a call. But you need to find some sort of way to actually implement that fix. I'm not going to go into that today because there's a bunch of different agencies watching this, a bunch of different types, but you've identified a constraint, so just do some sort of fix and don't delay this for too longer. Communicate progress as a different fix is going. So don't let this happen in the background. Make sure to actually show them that you're taking action. Screenshots are amazing. All of that good stuff. Show them different campaigns, record different rooms, whatever else it may be. And then step 6 is actually just monitor, right? That's literally it. All we're basically doing now is we've identified a constraint. We've communicated that constraint. We've implemented a fix for that constraint. We've communicated that we implemented a fix for that constraint. And now we're just monitoring the process to make sure it doesn't happen again. Yellow clients need more frequent check-ins than other clients, right? Obviously not as bad as red, thankfully, but they still need more check-ins than green clients, for example. So what we want to do here is continue monitoring that specific thing because you don't want the same recurrent problem to happen over and over again. So the whole goal here is that we're moving this yellow client back to the green section. And that's basically what we're trying to do. Now, yellow clients are basically small shift. I think that's the main differentiating thing between yellow clients and green clients. So usually these fixes on massive things. It's like different things, for example, like new creatives, maybe a targeting tweak in the interest you're targeting, maybe a conversation about follow-up, see whatever else it may be. But the whole idea of this is that these are small changes that we can do, but we do not want to ignore them because if we ignore them, this will get worse and they will get red clients. And this is the worst place to be. And again, this can happen very, very quickly, right? So again, in yellow, we're basically communicating and fixing. Those are the 2 big things you want to do. And if you communicate, if you identify the plan, if you actually execute the plan, if you fix the plan, if you communicate that plan, and we just monitor it to make sure it doesn't happen again, they will now go from yellow to green clients, which is obviously where you want them to actually be. The 3rd stage of this is red. And this is the worst position to be in. Right now, with this guy at the bottom getting choked out, thankfully he got out, which we can also get out from this position. But this is not a good place to be. Every day that we don't progress here is 1 day closer to a cancellation and this client going to your biggest competitor and you losing out on this potential LTV. And this is because if a client stays in red too long, they will leave you. Your retention is going to suck. And your churn is going to skyrocket, which basically means you make less money. This is literally you burning out the LTV that you could have got from your clients. So this is similar to yellow to some extent, but it's much more aggressive because we want to show immediate action. So let's go over the quick action plan, then we'll break these down individually. So over here, we basically want to be able to first identify the actual problem. Once you've identified a problem, we want to hop on a call with them. We want to execute aggressively. We want to get the senior team involved, cross-pollinate teams from performers, offer additional services if necessary, and just have daily communication to actually emphasize that as much as possible. So let's get into these individual steps one by one. First thing we want to do is similar to yellow, we want to actually identify the problem. If we don't know what's actually going wrong, then what we actually going to do, and do not guess this, guys, have a really good breakdown as to what exactly going on. Get into the data, map out every single issue before throwing fixes at the wall. Because at this stage, timing is the most important thing. And for a red client, realistically, there might be multiple problems stacking over time. We basically want to be able to identify all of them first. And again, go back to the theory of constraints to identify which specific constraint is going to be the most impactful, right? Because in reality, there's going to be a bunch of different problems that we can actually go to, as you can see, but it's beautiful GIF of these different blocks stacking together. But the most important one we want to focus on is the one that's going to drive the biggest impact. Because again, with red clients, we do not have much time. Realistically, they've been yellow clients for a bit. They've already been complaining. They've already been guessing. And it's not something they have a bunch of time to kind of buy yourself here or a month to test something out, see if it doesn't work. You basically need to map out all the different problems that these guys might potentially having. And again, there might be more than one, and identify which one is going to drive everything forward. So for example, if you're a client, right? And again, you do marketing services because that's most of what our partners are actually doing. For example, you run sort of ads to get them leads. And they have a couple of different problems. The conversion rate on the landing page sucks. No one's clicking on their ad, and also they have a very massive sales problem, right? Which one of those do you want to focus on first? Do you want to focus on the conversion landing page first, or do you want to make sure people actually click the ads first? Realistically, the biggest issue in this case, and obviously it depends on numbers, and this is just an example, right? But might be that they're not clicking on an actual ad. So that'll probably be the first thing that I want to focus on. I want to focus on the actual constraint, because if we don't free that up and if we improve the landing page, then no one's going to be clicking on the landing page anyways, because no one's clicking on the ad. That's the kind of thinking you want to implement here. It's kind of same thinking you want to install inside your CSMs when they're trying to figure out these issues and identify what was working and what's not working. In this stage, we'll basically identify all the potential problems and choosing the problems actually causing the constraint in this case. The second thing you want to do is hop on a call. Do not delay this anymore. The sooner you actually get on a call and actually speak to these guys and kind of talk them through everything that's going on behind the scenes, the less agitated they are going to become. This is not a situation where we're basically just sending a Slack message. This is a situation where we're getting them on the call and actually showing them that you're serious and actually very, very committed to actually giving them these services. And obviously, guys, I think it's important to say that none of this stuff is easy to do. I'm going to be very, very clear on this. This is very, very difficult to do at scale. When you're managing 150 clients, it's very, very hard to make sure your CSMs are doing this for each individual client, which is why obviously you implement different systems to help you with tracking, which is basically our entire business and our front end offer. Don't be discouraged thinking, hey, this is impossible to do at scale, because it's not. Because agencies, at the top agencies, they are doing this, and this is how they're able to keep clients for a very, very long time. Don't just send them a Slack message saying, hey, this is kind of what we're working on now. If you can, hop on a call with them and basically try to identify and show them that you've identified a problem and now you're fixing on it, right? Progress is the most important thing here. This is literally the single most important thing throughout the rest stage. You need to get some sort of progress so that you can show that you're going in the right direction. So don't just say everything is fine. They know that it's not. Show them that you have a plan and show them that the plan is moving towards the right direction. Because if they see any sort of progress that is happening, this will basically stop them from actually canceling. Now, obviously, this is a very time-intensive situation. You can't just pretend there's progress for like a month. They will just end up cancel. You actually need to get some sort of result at the start. But at the very beginning, if you get that buy-in from them, which is so easy to get, if you even show a little bit of progress, then it will be much more likely for them to stay longer with you guys and have that trust in you. This is what it all comes down to, having that trust. They're paying you for services. They should trust that you're able to actually deliver those services. And again, none of it is going to be perfect. But if you're able to indicate that in the right direction and push that towards the right direction, you're more likely to actually keep them. So step 3 of this is executing aggressively, guys. This is not a time for, hey, let's test this. Hey, let's go ahead and, different thing. You want to execute the highest impact changes right now. And this is the only way you'll be able to basically be able to move forward. And this kind of comes back to focus on the constraint that we talked about earlier. You don't want to throw 10 random things in a wall and hope one of them sticks. You want to be very, very specific about what you're executing on so you can actually put all your team's resources together to getting these guys a better experience. So far, if I go all the way back on my slides, we've been able to identify the problem or problems. We basically decided that we're going to be focusing on one specific problem to kind of drive that forward. Then we decided that we're going to hop on a call with these clients and show them some sort of progress. We decided we're going to be executing aggressively, or having our team execute aggressively on that specific constraint that we identified. Now we're going to move to step 4, which is actually getting the senior team involved. Now, this is important, and honestly, guys, you don't actually have to do this. You can even have automation do this, but obviously if you have a founder, then great. But you want to have some sort of senior team or show them that someone from the senior team is getting involved. So if, for example, you have a founder-led brand, you can have the founder send them a message, right? You can have some sort of a director or your marketing director to review the campaigns. You want to show them that the whole company is basically behind the success. And again, like, this is one of the smaller things that we've seen work really, really well, especially when the founder is kind of front-facing in marketing. If you show them that you actually care and you're basically escalating this rather than having some CSM or some sort of random media buyer, they can actually see that, hey, this is being taken up the command chain and we actually care about your results. Is an easy way to kind of, again, get that trust instilled back into them and basically push them towards understanding and believing that you will actually help them get out of this slope. Step 5 is cross-pollinating from top performers. Again, this is kind of we talked about towards the very, very start, which is why I wanted to start with that. But the green clients are getting results. And again, especially if you're in a specific niche, like for example, if you just help chiropractors, you can pass that same kind of methodology, maybe those same ads, the same landing pages to this specific client to be able to fix their problems. So you want to basically cross-pollinate from their top performers. And this is why in most cases, when you see these big agencies getting sold, the ones that are very, very niche and very, very kind of specific to one specific avatar are able to sell for a lot more because they have a lot more information about how to get results for those clients, right? So in this case, we basically want to get our green clients to fund the red recovery for these clients. They actually get them better results, which is, again, is very simply, you want to just take what's working and apply it to what we have over here. The step 6 of this is offering additional services. Now, this isn't going to be something for everyone, but remember we talked about upsells? Upsells can be seen in a couple of different ways. You can see upsells as a way to obviously make more money from clients, but what we've seen work very, very well is actually using upsells as ammunition in a sense to, again, instill that trust in clients. So what does it actually look like? Let's say, for example, you had an upsell where people are basically allowed to have another marketing campaign. Or for example, let's say you have one call a month with your team. Rather than having one call a month, now you go to having 2 calls a week, right? And that's one of your upsells that you have. Don't be scared to use those upsells as ammunition for these clients, right? So if, for example, you make it very, very clear you have an upsell and you notice someone in the red zone for a couple of different times, you can say something like, hey, by the way, I spoke to, the founder and we decided to be able to give you this 2-week free trial of our higher tier or higher support communication until we get this problem solved, right? All you're basically doing here, basically trying to buy some goodwill. Again, you can use and offer these additional services and show them that you're willing to go all in to actually make this work, and you're willing to basically incur some costs to actually get them some sort of results. And when you're explaining this to them, you don't want to show them that, hey, this is some sort of panic move that we're just adding everything in. It's more so a commitment to you getting them better results. And that's how it should come across as. And the last step of this is daily communication. Again, this is something that's not easy and you don't have to do this on a daily basis, but I really would recommend it. But you want to basically be able to communicate to the client what exactly is happening so they can get the best results with your specific services, right? So at this point, you're not just checking into what's actually going on. You're actually saying, hey, here's what changed. Here's the actual early data of these changes. That's moving in the right direction. Here's what we're doing next. The most important thing here, guys, is that red is aggressive action. And this is why we have these daily check-ins to also hold your team accountable to actually completing these different things that are actually going on. If you have great communication, it's going to take you a long way in your clients actually trusting you. And even, for example, if results aren't so good, and in this case, I mean, they're literally the worst of the worst, you'll be able to buy that trust for them. And the results we've seen from just even increasing the communication cadence for these clients will actually shock you. So implement these changes and you're going to see. But if you go back over here, the most important thing for red is the just aggressive action. We want to show them that we're committed to getting them their goals and that we're willing to just go aggressively and spend even money, for example, with these upsell services to get them the results. And hopefully that will get them to actually trust us a bit more. So, all right, guys, so that's a breakdown of what to do for red clients, which are the worst of the worst. The yellow clients, which is kind of that middle ground, and also for green clients, which is the clients that are getting the best possible results, right? Your job as a founder is to know which group every single client is in. And again, I'm not talking about individually going over each individual client results and seeing what group is in, but you should have some sort of understanding of how clients are actually performing. And again, have your team run a different playbook for each individual one. Before I let you go, I want to go over some 3 kind of core points and mistakes I see people make when implementing this playbook for the first time. So obviously you don't make those same mistakes and you can learn from them. The first mistake that I see people make is basically going quiet and working behind the scenes. Again, we talked about this in a couple of different stages for green, yellow, and also red clients, but you don't want to do this behind the scenes. This is not something that you're kind of tucking in behind the scenes and keeping to yourself. This is something that you want to shout that you're actually doing. Let the clients know that you're actually doing work and actually care for them, right? If the client doesn't see it, they'll assume that nothing's happening. So when someone is getting good results, let them know. When someone's not doing as good and you're implementing some sort of fix to actually fix it, let them know. If someone's doing very, very bad and now you're rewriting the whole funnel, don't just keep quiet about what's happening behind the scenes. Tell them what you're actually doing. This comes back to communication. It's going to be one of the levers that you can actually pull in your agency. And again, guys, none of this is easy. I'll be 100% honest with you. It's not something that you do straight away. You can just tell systems to actually do it. You need systems, especially as you're managing more clients, to actually do it properly. But if you're able to solve that communication factor and actually apply these different playbooks, it will improve your retention, it will decrease your churn, and it will make you more money because clients will stay longer, they'll pay you more, and you'll have higher profit margins. Because again, you've already paid to acquire that client. So why not just keep them for longer? The second mistake that we see people make is only paying attention to one group. So now we have this split of people or a split of clients. We have the green clients, the yellow clients, and the red clients, and people get very, very focused on one specific group. Usually, it's they get focused on they get very, very focused on the red clients, which is the clients that get the worst results. But I've seen some people also only focus on the green clients, and this is not the way to do this, right? The whole idea of this playbook is that you're basically able to split everyone up into 3 different groups, right? Green, yellow, and red. And from those different groups, you're still doing services for the clients, you're still doing something for those individual clients. You're not just ignoring someone because they're getting good results, for example, or you're not just ignoring someone because they're getting bad results. You're just basically applying different strategies to these individual clients. Now, obviously, different clients have different priorities, so that's important to kind of take in. And this will depend on your model and how everything's structured, how you actually charge for things, or whatever else it may be. But do not only pay attention to one group. The whole idea of this is that we have different playbooks that we can apply to these different groups, but we still want to do those playbooks for the different people. We're not just focusing on one group or for example, just clients that will get bad results, because then clients that will get green results are going to be left alone, and you don't want that. And the last mistake, or the most common mistake that I've seen people make when actually applying this playbook, is just being reactive instead of proactive. And this basically comes back to what we were talking about earlier. But in this case, if a client brings a problem to you first, then you've already lost, right? This is not where you want to be. The whole idea of this is that you should be flagging the issues first. And this is where checks come in. This is where, for example, once a week, you check every client's results to see what group they're in. You don't want a client come to you because if you're able to flag the issue first rather than having a client build to you, this is where the real trust is being built. And this is where you want to be. So guys, those are my 3 common mistakes. The agencies that nail retention aren't doing anything magical. They basically just don't treat every single client the same way, because that's never going to work. So that's basically an overview of my system. Now basically go ahead and implement it. The best way to do this, guys, is to first get an understanding of where your clients actually are. So today, this week, gather all your client data in one place, give them some sort of score of whether they're doing green, yellow, and red. The best way to do this is a health score. I've got this video over here going over how to actually set up a health score for your agency, so you can just copy that. But yeah, the first thing you want to do to actually implement this is just get a health score for each individual one of your clients, share this video with your CSMs, and then put together your playbooks. These are just like a generic guide, right? I want you now to create your own green playbook. I want you now to create your own yellow playbook. I want you now to create your own cross-pollinating strategy, right? What I've given you here is what we've seen and what we implement as a general template for people that are kind of working with us. But obviously, there's a lot more nuance that comes with that. We structure specifically for them. We set up specifically for them. Some of the things I mentioned here might not even work for you, right? It depends on your business model. So just take this as a video, as a inspiration for some different forms to be ignited within your agency brain, and go ahead and actually execute them from there. That's the most important thing I talk about, guys. If you want a system that does this automatically for you every single week and tells your CSMs who to actually focus on, then check the link somewhere in the description. You can book a call to my team. It's our introduction offer, where we'll basically set up a system that automatically grades the clients depending on what specific stage you're in based on the results from different platforms, and then tells your CSMs exactly what to do, so you can decrease your churn rate, increase your LTV, make more money, but also less stress out your team, get your clients better experience, get more positive reviews, which can feed into marketing and again make you more money on the front end as well. So a lot of different exciting things there. If any of that is interesting, then check the links in the description. And apart from that, guys, that's it for me today. I hope this video is helpful. Please, please, please go ahead and actually apply this playbook. It'll be one of the biggest changes you can actually make in your agency. And if you actually care about your client results and you actually want to continue growing without having to start fresh every single 3 months because you're losing your clients and you can actually keep them, then this is the way to actually do it. And this is one of the playbooks that you implement inside your agency to help your CSMs get your clients the best possible results. All right, if you have any questions whatsoever, drop them in the comments and I'll catch you in the next one. Also, don't stop your learning here. We release so much information on YouTube. It's literally where we drop all of our different values to try and nurture people. So our incentives are very, very aligned. I'm trying to give you as much information that's actually useful as I can. We literally don't hide anything on this channel. We have builds all the way up to 1 hour showing exactly what we do for different clients. So make the most of those resources and go through them, implement in your agency, get some value from us. And the whole idea of this is that when it comes down to actually work together, you'll hopefully be begging me to work with us, because you'll see how good we actually are doing what we do. Because hopefully you can take some of these practices from our YouTube channel and apply them to your agency, get some sort of early wins, and I get a bunch of early goodwill from you. So guys, that's pretty much it for me. Enjoy the rest of your day and implement this, because it will make a change in your agency. Bye bye.